All right, guys, welcome back to the Instinct Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ash, aka SpicyyPyro, and I do casting for VALORANT.
Awesome. Okay, I'll start it off. So, with casting, what do you think is, the hardest part about it?
The hardest part about casting, you have to be really dedicated to improving. I think that's something that a lot of viewers don't realize is the amount of work that goes into it. You're always going to get criticism from people in chat. When I attended the VCT Game Changers caster training program, partnered with Rise and Riot Games back in October, and I had the pleasure of meeting a lot of seasoned veterans in the industry and learning from them. And I believe it was Vansili who said that, no feedback in chat is usually the best feedback that you're going to get. And that's because of the fact that casters are really there to elevate the story that the players and the teams are putting on with their gameplay, and they're not supposed to be the main attraction of the show. They're just supposed to elevate that, and I think that's something that a lot of viewers don't really understand, because it can be. My brain is kind of all over the place at this point because there's so many avenues that I can be going down with it. But yeah, when it comes down to it, I mean, that was a piece of really great advice that I got from Vansili. And I think it's one of the hardest things to also overcome from the perspective of being a caster, is that you might be looking for that validation from the audience. And the reality is that most of the time you're not going to get it. People are going to notice the criticisms more than the good things about your performance. And the biggest thing is just really not letting that get to you and kind of having the mental to kind of overcome that, I think, is one of the hardest parts.
Always hearing Twitch chat. Every time the commentators mess up something, it's always forehead casters, forehead casters.
Yeah, exactly. And meanwhile, when you think about it, half the people who are commenting those things probably wouldn't be able to actually go and do what you're doing on screen. It's a lot.
Yeah.
There's so many layers to it that I think that people don't really realize.
No, casting is incredibly difficult. I see that and I'm like, how are you guys able to talk for 4 hours? I can't do that.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys do it. Me and my friend, we casted one of our friends' tournaments, and 4 games in a row, by game 3, we were out of energy, sitting there.
So you guys take shots and shots of Red Bull and espresso shots just beforehand, or are you guys all right, we're just gonna get this over with?
I think it depends on the person. I know I personally don't drink caffeine too frequently. I used to be a little bit addicted to coffee, so I've had to cold turkey. But since getting into casting, I've started drinking coffee every once in a while now to keep my energy up. If I had a long night the day before and I had to have energy for the upcoming cast. But Gompers, for example, the lovely lady that I usually duo with, she's a ball of energy, and she actually cannot drink caffeine due to a health condition. So it's interesting, considering the fact that you kind of just build up the endurance over time, I think. And a lot of casters also have, not everybody obviously has the same personality. The personalities vary tremendously throughout talent and whatnot. But a lot of us, I think, naturally like talking. And I think that definitely helps with the profession.
So when it comes to that, then what's the easiest part? So when you guys go into casting, for example, Valorant, it has of course, not unlike CS:GO, it's you have to know the ability names. I main Chamber, and I still don't know half his utils names. Do you have a spreadsheet in front of you, or do you just remember from the top of your head?
I remember off the top of my head personally.
Wow.
But that's because I personally have a good memory. I've always, I don't know, I was that kid in school who studied off of flashcards and stuff like that. So I can pick those kinds of things up pretty easily. And when you cast, over a longer period of time as well, you really familiarize yourself with the game and the terminology. So that kind of becomes second nature. But I remember first starting out, I was talking to Mimi A. Evil Cat, and what she does, regardless of if it's ability names or if she needs like particular references to maybe the team or any information, she puts sticky notes like at the bottom and on the sides of her monitor and whatnot. So if you have more trouble remembering things, you can either have a spreadsheet up, or most casters have a notebook as well. So that's a pretty easy way to kind of like refer back to those things. But for the most part, I think I have the ability is memorized. And if I don't have it memorized, I put like the effort into trying to memorize it ahead of time.
Do you say the ability name when you're playing ranked? Or do you just say, all right, like if your Sky's like, all right, I'm flashing, all right, I'm dogging in? Like, do you actually say the ability name sometimes?
I go back and forth, and it's really confusing to a lot of my friends. Because like we've been running custom games really frequently lately, and doing like 10-mans and stuff. And I've been saying things like, okay, I'm going to throw out my guiding light. And everyone's like, what the hell? But it's like the sky flash, right? But so I will sometimes slip up and say like it's not even a slip up, I guess, but like I'll say the proper term, and people I'll have to clarify sometimes for people.
That's funny. Now, do you play the game a lot? Because like some of the casters, especially like in VCT, you could kind of like tell that some of them don't play the game. Like they say things and you're just like, doesn't make any sense. Like if you knew what was going on, you probably wouldn't have said, like, how often do you yourself play the game?
Okay. I was a Valorant addict. I would say, okay, let me rewind. The game came out in beta. I got beta access. I was lucky enough to get one of those access codes pretty early on. I played it once with my friends who came from CS, and I was like, I'm never touching this game, like, ever again. And then I gave it another shot with them another time, and I totally fell in love with it. I'm a very competitive person by nature. So I was grinding Valorant for a while. And then the past few months, I would say, I did not play it as much. I just didn't have the time with needing to work and focusing on casting and doing a bunch of other things. So I fell off of that. But right now I'm trying to get back into it, because I used to do like in the lower leagues, I would compete in like Valorant's tournaments and stuff like that. Our team actually won, I think, one of the earlier Valorant's like lower league tournaments. Thanks. It's no big deal at all. But like, so I used to grind this game. I would like practice and whatnot, and I was really trying to get better. But with time constraints in life and adulting, it kind of fell off. But I'm definitely trying to get back into it more, because I'd like to take streaming more seriously once again. I used to stream like pretty frequently. So I'm trying to get back into it, because I think that playing the game, even though you can study it as much as you possibly want, you can learn the importance of like macro team play and, the core basics of the game and mechanics and what the metas are and whatnot. I think, it's one thing to know those things. It's another thing to have game sense, which is where you're actually applying it to the game itself. And not every, like casters don't have to be good at the game to be good at their craft or what they're talking about. Like that obviously has no correlation, even though some people might think otherwise. I think that, playing the game kind of just helps you continuously stay more updated with what's going on in it. And maybe even like having a better understanding of like in-game decisions that are being made in like within a split second and whatnot. So I think that it definitely elevates it, and I am trying to play it a lot more and grind up compared to like the past few months, because I think it's going to help like with my craft personally.
Because I remember I don't know if you know Yinsu, one of the one of the analysts for VCT. She got like a lot of flack for like, not flack, but like a lot of the people in the community were like, "Hey, she's silver. Why is she casting?" It's like, yes, your rank, she might be in the quote unquote lower rank.
Yeah.
Does it mean that she doesn't understand the game, doesn't understand from an outsider's person? Of course, she's not in the server with them, or or just know the pro, or she wasn't a former pro. Like, it doesn't matter. It's still like you playing the game consistently, understanding and watch. So I mean, casters watch a lot of games, so you guys are understanding. It's like, hey, maybe this, or some casters actually talk to pros to understand their insight of it. Because last year's VCT, we saw some times where the caster would say something. It's like, what? So like it just makes confused. It's like, yeah, of course he did that. Like, what do you mean? Or like they would get flagged, but it's like you don't see it from an outside standpoint because everyone always says, "Oh, scoreboard, he's doing better." Like when a lot of people gave Zoms a lot of shit because I'm like, well, he's not a fragger. He's a
well, I mean, I think Zoms talks a lot of shit, so like, I think he gets what he.
That's a different story for the most part. So overall, what made you want to go into casting?
Ooh. It's kind of complicated, I guess. Like I initially started doing casting as a volunteer for fun thing. Like when I cast my first few games for VALORANT, it was all volunteer. That was like pretty early on in the server. I kind of joined the commentator program to generally learn about it because I thought it would be fun. I never really did it because I was planning on pursuing a career in casting. So I did a few volunteer gigs here and there, fell off of that. I didn't do it for a while. So I really only had like maybe a maximum of 5 casts under my belt for like in-houses for VALORANT. And then in the summer, in August, my friend hosted a tournament and she was looking for casters to come on, to cast over it for fun and whatnot. It was the first time, I think, or maybe the second time she was running this tournament. And I said yes, and I volunteered for it. And then after that weekend, I felt really inspired. It kind of made me want to get back into it. And I was talking to, a few people. And I just want to preface, anyone who has, if anyone listens to this in the future and saw me cast that tournament where my cast was dog shit, I'm not gonna lie, it was trash. And it was not very good. But I met a lot of great people through that opportunity, including my friend Zada, who she used to work in the esports industry. And she was like, I've worked with casters before. And this was like my very first time meeting her. She just reached out in my DMs like after the tournament. And she was like, I've worked with a lot of amateur casters. And like, I genuinely think like you have potential to be good at this. And for you to only be starting out, I think that, if you can learn to like elevate your craft and whatnot, you could make it farther than just doing volunteer positions and whatnot. So I'm not gonna lie, she was genuinely probably my driving force that made me change my mind. Like that kind comment kind of ignited the spark in me, and that made me want to like continue to pursue it. And right after that tournament, that's when the applications came out for that Game Changers caster training program in LA. And I applied for it on a whim and got accepted. So I was kind of like, okay, I got accepted to this. This is a sign. I'm going to give this a shot. And I took this fall semester off and I quit my job and I focused on casting like ever since that training program and whatnot. And I mean, I'm working part-time now, but I definitely, I went all in. I definitely went balls deep on it, like quitting my job as I got accepted and whatever. That was kind of crazy of me to do, but I was committed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's good because I recently saw you did a Knights tournament, and then I believe I saw you in the NSG. So you are getting a lot of gigs, which is great and all. That means your branding is expanding, of course. So, like, did you expect to like get all these gigs at once? Were you like overwhelmed at first, or were you like, all right, let me just organize myself, and I think I can do it?
I would definitely not say overwhelmed, because if I look back, I actually haven't gotten like that many gigs. I've just gotten very, very fortunate with the networking that I've done and the reputation that I think that I'm starting to build for myself as a caster. I was definitely surprised to have been accepted to Nerd Street as early as I was, but incredibly thankful for the opportunity and the fact that they were willing to give Gompers and I a shot. And I think like from then on, we kind of started proving ourselves, and we're then getting offers for more gigs. Or when we reach out to people, if you can say that you've cast something like Fragadelphia, for Nerd Street or whatever, people are going to give you a bit more of a serious look. So everything has kind of fallen into place. I mean, it's it's definitely a grind because with casting, there you do a lot of cold calling. You're reaching out to people to see if they have any events that they're hosting that they're looking to hire people for. So I definitely would not say overwhelmed. Like things are not like falling into my lap or anything like that. There have definitely been times where I felt very fortunate, but I think that I'm also putting the work in and that people are noticing that. And I just can only hope, to get better and for it to keep, rolling in and keep progressing as on-air talent.
Crazy to hear. Because casting is like something I feel like in the esports industry is not shined upon as much because everyone just sees the pros, everyone sees the analysts and all that. I feel like casting is just, I feel like it's
kind of slept on.
Yeah. Like, people don't understand the amount of work you guys put in because, I mean, of course, hopefully when lands come back and then there's audiences as well, like you guys have to go travel with the team. You guys have to go like go to hotels, prepare for yourselves, especially if it's a different country. You guys have like jet lag. So that's a big ass issue. And it's good to see that you guys are like act like ish because I wanted to bring on casters and like so that's why I wanted to bring you on. I just want to say like what is because I genuinely don't know the preparation you guys go to, so it's more just I want to learn as well more than whoever is listening to this knows as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think preparation is a little bit different for everybody, but it depends on the kind of event that you're doing. If you're doing an event that's just like very puggy teams, you're not going to have a lot of prep work to do because they usually aren't going to have like an event history or anything like that. But anything with a team that has the history of competing together, you have to go back and do the prep work for that. Usually you're looking at like the past few tournaments that they've done. You're going to see, okay, what have their map picks been? What are their team compositions like on their map picks? You can even look at statistics. Not everybody likes to look at statistics, and I think that statistics have a very specific time and place to be brought up and don't actually they're not always, a core part of the story unless you're looking at you would bring up the stats of, for example, in the women/marginalized gender scene, Cat Triggered is has the top average combat score out of any of the women/NB players within the scene right now. And in that case, you would obviously bring that up to be able to highlight Cat as a player. But you're not going to go through the roster while you're casting and be like, okay, each person has this combat score, each person has these statistics, because it's not a pertinent part to the story. So you're kind of trying to pick and choose what elements you think are going to be important to the narrative. For example, if, a team has played in a couple of tournaments recently and they've gotten to semifinals or they've gotten to grand finals, but have lost out the past 2 times, and then, they're making it to grands once again, you can insert that into your narrative and be like, this team is really itching to get this dub. They've made it so close every single time. And now they are going to really want to take this title home. But yeah, so it definitely differs from caster to caster. And I think that actually, no. I was going to say that as a color caster, you have more research to do, but I don't think that's necessarily true. It depends on the style of the play-by-play person as well. Because, they might want to also have all of that background information to be able to pad the story that they're trying to tell. But yeah, I don't. Did that make sense? Did that answer your question?
Yeah. You answered that perfectly. Thank you. Because it's just good to see that different kind of people in esports, just especially because everyone just always wants to talk about the players. So seeing that you guys put in just as much, not of course just as much as work, and just you guys, it's just as important as when people see just pro players, because they don't see what pro players have to go through in order. So it's just good to shine light on what you guys have to go through and preparations, because you know how Twitch chat is about everything.
Ruthless.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one other thing that Twitch chat, this is gonna be super brief, I promise. One thing that Twitch chat tends to forget is the fact that pro play, coordinated team play, is so different from ranked games. And that's how you were mentioning, people will be like, oh, you're silver, you're gold, or whatever your rank is, how are you knowledgeable enough to play this, and kind of forget that I mean, okay, in ranked, mechanics also matter. I mean, there are brainer gamers who can rank up and whatever, but if you don't have the core mechanics in general, even though you know as much as you do about the game, that's not going to translate always into your gameplay. So,
what do you think is like the craziest, like the funniest thing someone has ever said about your casting in Twitch chat?
that's hard. I try not to look back at Twitch chat.
Okay.
I think that some people have Twitch chat open and look at it. I personally will
so you guys
only really
do?
look at it. I don't. I do not. It is not recommended, especially if you're someone who does not have thick skin. And even if you do have thick skin, it's generally not recommended to have Twitch chat open. A lot of casters will have it open regardless, but I feel like you always run the risk of somebody getting to your head, like a stupid comment, getting under your skin, and then that's going to affect your performance for the rest of the cast, and you want to avoid that at all costs. So I'll only look at chat if I'm VOD reviewing, or like sometimes people will send me snapshots of something that was said in chat. Nobody ever like obviously sends me something negative in the middle of my cast. It'll be like, oh, someone like said something nice or whatever. But I would say that one of the funniest moments, though, me getting flamed in Twitch chat was during Fragadelphia. I had created my spreadsheet with all of the player information for every single team. I did my research on them. I have it like, the way I have it laid out is player ID, their agents that they normally play, and then last column on the right is like general information, where I'll usually put like, okay, this player is the IGL. This player likes to play like aggressively if I know that information about them. And it was for Vietnamese Curry, which was 4 players of Rise plus T1 Curry were playing on the same team for Frag. And I accidentally labeled in my spreadsheet, I made it at like 4 a.m., by the way, the night before the cast. I finished the spreadsheet. So I said the wrong person I labeled the wrong person as IGL for Rise. And I said that during cast. I said the wrong person's name. And I was flamed in chat for it. They're like, oh, caster must like know some secret information that we don't. Like they changed IGLs, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, it's an honest mistake. I apologized in chat for it after. Everyone was like a good sport about it, but it's hilarious because, you know, it's a team where, you know, people follow Rise. You know, they know the team dynamics generally, and to be saying that kind of information about a team that is well known, obviously you're gonna get like shit for it. So I would say that that's probably the funniest thing that I've gotten. Otherwise, like most of the flaming is usually just about like
stupid stuff.
Yeah, stupid stuff like, oh, is this a women? A lot of people will come in and ask, is this a women's tournament?
I don't get that.
When the casters are female, they'll be like, is this a women's tournament? Like, are all of the players today women / marginalized genders? And and it's like, what? No, but okay.
Because I forgot, I think it was Hypoc. Didn't she cast like most of VCT as well? Which I don't get why people do that. It's like, yeah, I mean, if you saw all of VCT last year, you saw there were women casters. So I see that as well when I'm looking at it. Even when like, if you look at Game Changers or if you look at something like Knights or SSG and you see like a female caster, everyone's like, oh, women only league. I'm like, why does that gotta be? Like, is that gonna change the tournament? Like, what's the difference? That I don't get. I think a lot of people. I feel like that's a reason. A lot of people are just not used to esports or just gotten into. I think that's the people that are saying that. It's because if you think about it, esports is still a very young field. So like something like the only Titans that have been alive for that long is what CS:GO, Dota, and League. So they only really been exposed to that. So like Valorant being the big Titan coming in, it brings in a lot of new players and a lot of new people because a lot of people are young, and I think they don't understand that. If you can agree with me or not, but I feel like they don't understand.
I think that's part of it, but I think also like it being such a male-dominated scene in general, there's like this overarching view that, you know, most professionals in this industry are going to be male identifying, and especially with like, obviously there's been female talent throughout, you know, live broadcasts for esports since day one. you have Pansy, you have Shocks, you have La Tigress. Like, there's so many well-known women who have, succeeded and excelled in this industry. But it's like, if you're not one of those few, who they also still get slack for being women. If you're not part of like that select few, though, it's automatically you must be incompetent, or only female casters can cast for the women's scene. Like, they don't know anything about men's esports or whatever. I don't know. Like,
literally the same game.
Yeah, it's
like the
literally
same
the same game.
Yeah, it's like nothing has changed. Everything's still the same. Well, do you like how Riot, especially with Valorant, do you like how they're really putting a shine on females? For example, they made the Game Changers, and also they're bringing a lot of more female casters. They're making the tournament, like their main tournament VCT, a lot of mixed, because that's something like EG, who made a mixed roster, and then C9. You saw C9 White compete in VCT. So do you like how they're really putting a shine on it compared to other esports that I feel like haven't really been pressure or like exposing it a lot?
Absolutely, because I think the biggest drive, and I mean, this was the whole argument that was going on beforehand with all of like the Thorin bullshit and whatever that was going on.
That man is a menace to society.
He is
that man is crazy.
But yeah, so I think that kind of like relates back to those kind of ideas. And what a lot of people don't understand is the fact that we need a platform to elevate women, to show that they can prove themselves at this high level. And, there are some women who compete in VCT. There are female teams who are going to be competing in VCT and whatnot. But you still need to have, a separate platform that is a safe space for these individuals and these teams to grow separately from, the main event series, because that's the only way that you're going to have these players comfortable to move into the event series. You want to highlight them as well to give them the recognition that they deserve. And it allows for a bit of a smoother transition, I think, into a main event series, considering the fact that, like, there have been women competing in main events on co-ed teams across all titles. But those women rarely get the recognition that they deserve. Or you'll also see, like, especially like years and years and years ago, these women who are even they're like some of the best players in the world, regardless of gender, and they won't be given the same kinds of opportunities because they're women, regardless of, their exceptional skill level. And that's why it's important to have these circuits that do highlight women and provide that safe space, because you want to be able to give them a platform where they can learn and grow as a team, because otherwise they aren't normally given the same kind of chances. And we see that culture is changing in esports now. And I think the fact that, Riot Games and Valorant is pushing really hard to make it happen in Valorant itself is incredibly important and really paves the way for other titles. Like we did see like CSGO announcing, their women's circuit. And that would, in my opinion, that would not have happened without Valorant.
Right.
Or if it would have happened, it wouldn't have happened this year.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have happened as soon as they did.
And then when they did that, Thorin, man, like, I think I saw that because I was looking through my Twitter feed. I think he blocked every single person that even said his name too. I think I saw your tweet. I think he blocked you as well, right?
He blocked me. Yeah, he blocked me.
I saw that. It was like everyone's like making that as a badge. Just like, oh damn, got his ass.
Yeah, no. I think he has like a filter on, like an auto filter, where if like you mention like any specific words that he's put within that filter, you're auto blocked.
Wait, really? He went that extensive? My man has
maybe we should do that and try to get banned by him.
I can't say for sure, but that's the only thing that can explain him blocking such a mass number of people in such a short period of time, and it literally being instant too. It's like the second someone would put out a tweet, even if it's not even response to his, they would be like auto blocked because they used a certain words that were underneath that filter as like unacceptable.
Yeah, because I saw him didn't I don't know if I'm like thinking right, but I think didn't he cast a Valorant tournament or something in the VCT? So like seeing him do that, then it's like, bro, you're not coming back to Valorant, or like you're gonna get a lot of hate. So I don't know why someone like that is even, especially a big. He's like huge in
Mhm.
CS:GO as well. So seeing him do that, it's like you're just committing career suicide at that point. So it's I think he is one of the reasons was like, dude, you're taking 2 steps back while we're taking forward. So it's a lot. It's a lot what he did, and that was a big. That went on for like a whole week. I remember
Mhm.
that, where everyone was
Mhm.
like, "Dude, like, it's not right." And he kept. So I saw one time he blocked someone, unblocked them, quote tweeted them, and then blocked them again. I was like, "Holy!"
I'm pretty sure that was Mel from
Yeah, wait,
Pink and White. Yeah,
I was like,
Detective
"What?"
Mel.
That's hilarious.
I was like, "That was the most petty shit I've ever seen." That's like.
Yep.
So it's good.
What a guy.
But I think you are right. I think without the $500,000 tournament with a CS:GO, I think so would have not happened without Valorant, because they definitely saw like shit. Valorant's definitely taken a lot of players from CS:GO, and they're definitely getting bigger. So it's good to see that now.
Mhm.
Valve, unfortunately, like they finally took it. It took them too long, I feel like, in my opinion, because there has always been female teams, but I feel like they just never get shined upon because they've
Mhm.
been gone for a while. So it's nice to see that, because
Yeah.
people don't understand women in esport plus games equals good. So people don't understand that.
Yeah. No, I think a big problem with all of that is the fact that, you know, a lot of people who've been in this industry and are used to seeing a very, you know, men who are used to seeing a very male dominated industry in esports, they feel like threatened by it. Meanwhile, you know, adding competitive scenes and elevating other competitive scenes just means more funding for esports, aka better games, aka better circuits, more tournaments, more content. But they just see it as, oh, women game, bad. And
Yeah.
women gaming, taking away from men gaming, very bad. And it's like, there's no correlation
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Just blind.
Yeah, because you see, like, I think XSET, C9, TSM, like they have males and female teams now. So it's like you're just making, one, the branding gets bigger, two, the game gets bigger. The women in the playing in the esport, either player, coach, analyst,
Mhm.
they're getting exposure to it. It's just
Mhm.
there is no negative.
Yeah.
There is literally zero negative impact if you bring more women into esports. So that's why I still don't understand the people who are like Thorin who just don't think that. We're probably gonna get blocked by him if this episode comes out.
That'd be so
Yo,
sick.
imagine,
You know
yo,
how
I'm
sick
tweeting
that
this
would
shit.
be?
I was like, yeah, I want to see if Thorin blocks us. If he does, it'd be crazy.
That'd be tight.
So it would be nice
Yeah,
to see.
it's crazy. But it's just like,
Oh.
I don't know. It's just incel, like misogynistic
Yeah.
mentality at that point. I mean, like I think I didn't, you know, pay attention to this specifically. Like I didn't watch the live stream or whatever, but I had heard on Twitter that Semler held a live stream where he let people come on to discuss his opinions and all of the negative shit he was saying about the women's scene and how he thinks it's like detrimental and whatever. And as people started like poking holes in his arguments, he like doubled down, tripled down, and then brought up biology
What?
as a talking point.
We're
within
playing
it.
a video.
It's a video game. It's a video game. There's a
Okay.
what?
Yeah. I cannot say that this is 100% true, but that's like the brief synopsis that I got from Twitter about that
insane.
situation. So it's like, it's people that hold that same
God.
mentality, the misogynistic mentality, where it's like men are better than women
It's
because genetics.
I don't get that. It's because like I think they're trying to connect traditional sports like baseball, basketball, soccer, and all that
Mhm.
to esports, which is like, no, esports. It's anybody, no matter where you come from, what's your background, or any of that. Everyone's on the same playing field. Yes, some people could be like more cracked than the others. I get that, right? But doesn't mean that you guys can't play on the same playing field. So that I
Mhm.
don't. I think they keep connecting that to traditional, and of course, traditional does have some like a little difference. But like in esports, everyone's the same. You're on the server, everyone like there's no enhance or any of that.
Yeah.
Everyone's the same. So it's still like confusing to me why people still disagree with that. So it's I mean, I feel like just over time they'll get filtered out, and then we'll definitely everyone in the community will definitely be, you know,
Yeah.
connected. Hopefully one day, hopefully.
Mhm.
But it's good to see pro players, like male pro players, like really double down. It's like, hey, if you don't like women in esports, like don't be a fan of us. Like their straight up is like, if you aren't with women in esports, like you are not a fan of me. So it's really good to see them like double down. It's like, hey, and they're representing a big brand as well. Even like someone like in TSM
Yeah.
or all that. It's like, come on, it's not no negatives about it. So it's good to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I mean, you know, a lot of the arguments like come down to stupid things like, oh, well, you know, on average, men have a higher reaction time than women, blah, blah, blah. But if you're going to use those kinds of arguments, then you might as well be like, oh, Hiko, you're too old to play now. Sorry, your reaction time must be lower because you're older. It's like, what is that logic? It's individual performance. You're not going to, you know, we're not choosing people for teams based off of, you know, the average reaction time of a whole gender. It's about the person themselves. So it's just faulty logic.
So did you play any other games before Valorant? Or was Valorant your first like real FPS?
Valorant's my first real FPS. I've never played a tactical shooter before Valorant, but I grew up on video games. Like being a kid, me growing up as like a toddler, I was sitting on my dad's lap watching him play Doom. And I mean, my mom hated that. She hated that because she's just like, my 3-year-old daughter's watching you play Doom right now. Like, that's not age appropriate, blah, blah, blah. And then when I grew up, my dad got my brother and I have 4 brothers now, but at the time it was just the one. He got us a Wii. So, you know, I grew up playing like some PC educational PC games, and then the Wii was like my first like console where I played games that were not to enhance my education,
like entertainment.
Just for pure fun and entertainment. So I grew up mainly being like a Nintendo gal. I ended up getting like a gaming laptop in high school, and I played Smite, which I hate that game. I hate it.
Who'd you play? Which lane did you play mostly in Smite? Because I have like 400 hours in that game too as well.
Let me check how many hours I have in this game. Actually, I'm curious.
Oh, no.
I'll compare. I played a lot of it in high school.
When Smite first came out, it had like a really big like following because
Smite was cool when it came out.
Yeah, because it was like the challenge to League and Dota, but then over time, it's just like they just didn't give a shit about the esports, so then it went downhill. Because I was
the esports for that game definitely died.
It's still going on.
It is still going on, yeah.
But like
on its last legs.
Yeah, it was like $2 million its first ever like tournament, and then after that, it didn't even get close to it.
Yeah,
because it was crowdfunded as well. I remember that.
Really? If I uninstalled the game, it's not going to tell me how many hours I had in it beforehand. That's some bull.
Did you play before?
Trying to check on Steam.
Did you play it before or after it came out on Steam? Because there was, I remember it was on. It was down.
It was on its own launcher.
Yeah, it was on its own launcher. Then it became on Steam.
I played a couple years after it launched, but I played. I would say like probably 25% of the time that I have on that game is on the original launcher, and then I got it on Steam because it was just easier that way. But I played mid lane and support in Smite.
Okay.
I played it mostly because all of my friends played it, so the homies played it, and it was fun to play. You know, in a group of people. You know, you just have a good time, you gel. But then, you know, ultimately, I don't really like MOBAs. It's not my kind of thing. As the game itself, I did not like the game. I just played it to hang out with the homies. Yeah, but that was technically like the first competitive game that I really got into. And then, just like RPGs, I'm still waiting for a good MMORPG to come out and play with the homies. I played Albion Online for a bit, but ended up falling off of that one. The grind for MMORPGs is just so intense.
Yeah.
That if you don't have the time to dedicate to it, it can be hard to kind of maintain. But since Valorant came out, I have barely touched any other games other than like a few variety games that I'll play with friends here and there. But it's definitely my main focus at the moment, at least.
Is it work? Is it because of work, or is it just because you have no interest in any other game?
I have interest in other games, which is why I'll play them if I have the right group of people that I want to play with at that time. But ultimately, my competitive nature has me addicted to Valorant like it's crack, and I don't get the same kind of
rush.
I don't even know what to say. I guess rush as playing other games, like, which kind of sucks because I actually do love, like, I love platformers and stuff like that. I find them so much fun to play. But I think especially with COVID is another kind of factor to add in, the decrease like in-person socialization. As an extrovert, it's more tempting to play, you know, this co-op competitive game with my friends as opposed to maybe the single person games that I have enjoyed in the past. But I will go back to them eventually. I'm all in right now, I guess.
What rank are you in Valorant?
I have not done my placements for this act, but I have peaked Plat 1. But after I hit Plat 1, I didn't really grind the game much. Like, I only got, the past few acts, I only got like a couple triangles on my Dorito, and then this most recent one was probably the most I've played since hitting Plat, and even then, like, I only played comp like super inconsistently, like once in a blue moon. Would run it with friends kind of thing. But I haven't like grinded seriously since. What about you guys? What ranks are you?
I peaked at Diamond 2.
Okay, nice.
At like Plat 2, but I haven't like played much ranked in the past like 3 months.
Playing League, bro.
Yeah, I've been a grimy League player for the past couple months.
Yeah, right.
I agree. I don't know what's wrong with me.
It'll be like we're playing and it's like 11 p.m. He's like, "Yo, you want to play some League?"
I think it's a League hour.
I'm like, "No, I don't want to play League." But at the same time, I don't want to go against like ranked demons and Valorant. So I'm like, "Fuck it, I'll play League."
Who do you main in Valorant?
I'm a flex player. I play almost every role for the most part. I would say I have been playing. It's funny, I used to be a Sentinel main when I first started out, and then now, I mean, I was always a flex. I could flex any role, but now I actually gravitate more towards like playing a duelist initiator role.
Okay.
I don't trust people to entry onto site in flat and gold. I'm not gonna lie, they're baiting you half the time. So I would rather just like not obviously full send it in, but I'd rather, you know, entry in myself. I've just been having more fun playing kind of more entry oriented agents. Specifically Raze. I've been leaning towards Raze a lot for many maps, depending on, you know, which one it is, but still a flex player where I'm comfortable in any role. Yeah. What about you guys?
I mean,
he thinks he's a flex player. He thinks he's a flex player.
Okay.
This kid every month he's like, "Yo, I'm maining this agent," and then like he was at one point he's like, "I'm only playing Sova in ranked," and then the next month he's like, "I'm only playing Sky. I'm only playing KO." So who are you on right now?
I'm on Chamber right now. So I'm a Chamber main at the moment. So that's why we're laughing about it. I think most agent I've played right now is Sova, and then I played a lot of Phoenix when he was meta, but now he's like not good anymore, unfortunately. I wish they buffed him. Please, Riot, buff him.
I've been playing Cypher since like day one. Yeah, and that's about it.
He's got like
I'm a grimy lurker.
He's the guy that has the one-way cage. If you see the one, he's that player. So it's
you got all the Cypher setups, all the annoying setups. Nice.
Yeah. So it's good. Do you see? Well, when it comes to like Valorant, and then because you know how agent is just a huge one of the abilities. Do you see like the balance changes, like, do you see them going towards the right step, or do you see like, do you disagree with a lot of balance changes that happen? Because they're compared to like League, because of course it's Riot Games. Like every League player I talk to, they say they don't give a shit about their players, and they'll buff or nerf any champion they feel like. But in Valorant, I feel like if enough people talk about it, they buff them. Like the Yoru, he got like so much flack for being like a really bad agent right off the bat, but then now it's rumored to come out with he's having like a massive rework. Do you see like, do you think how do you think about that when you see like Riot actually listening to their community?
I think Riot, I don't know too much about the League scene, so I can't really compare the two, but for Valorant, they seem to genuinely listen to the community. Not all of the time. I can't guarantee that it's every single time, but for the most part, for really important things, they do tend to listen. The amount of time that it takes for a change to occur is up to their discretion, obviously. But I think the fact that, like you see your rework happening is, a proven factor that they do want to like switch up the meta, keep things interesting for people. And I know that like, with Neon, for example, everyone's complaining that Neon's like overpowered and whatnot. I haven't like played her quite yet, and I haven't faced her too frequently either, so I don't really have an opinion yet. I haven't analyzed it enough to form an opinion on how I feel about her kit, but I think that in general, you're usually better off coming out with a character design that is initially maybe at the very least a little bit overpowered than underwhelming, like we saw with Yoru. Because the reason why it took so long for Yoru to get this rework is because people didn't play him. And when you don't have your actual community play testing your agents live in game, like day to day, because they're not, they're seen as having this weak kit. They're not viable. You're not going to get as much feedback. Like they're getting the feedback that he's trash. People being like, oh, Yoru shit tier agent, blah, 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 bad kit, need a rework. But you're not getting anything concrete. Meanwhile, if you have overpowered agents and you have, pro players, tier 2 players, players of all levels, picking this agent because they're OP and they feel like a must pick on teams, or they feel interesting and fun to play because their kit is maybe slightly overpowered, you actually get real feedback on it, and people can touch points on, I think that she's overpowered or he's overpowered or they're overpowered for this reason. I think that, the kit can be reworked in this particular way because it seems just a little bit too strong of a counter to, this other agent. And I think that, that's kind of the way to go. And I kind of prefer when games go in that direction as far as their character designs and whatnot, because then at least you have the community playing them to be able to give you the feedback instead of just calling a character dog shit that's not helpful. You got
to be specified. You got to specify why.
Yeah.
I still can't forget the time where they said, we don't have, I think on quote, we don't have the resources to fix Yoru. I have never seen a $1 billion company say that in a game. That was hands down the funny.
Hilarious.
I was like,
is there a tweet?
No, it was a discussion post. It was
on like Reddit or something.
Yeah, they're like, we don't have the resources to rework him. I'm like, there's no shot you just said that.
$1 billion.
You're a $1 billion company and you don't have the resources to buff one person. So it was funny when they said that, but I think what they were trying to say is they just don't know how, because there's not enough data and all that. But it's just the wording they use. Everyone was like, what do you mean by that?
Abilities don't kill.
Precise gunplay, by the way.
Precise gunplay.
Yes, precise gunplay.
They're gonna fix that one day. One day I won't get running gunned in game. But how do you think the state of the game is right now? Like overall Valorant, ranked, competitive, or like everything wise? How do you think this game of it is?
I would say it's kind of hard because the new patch just rolled out to say the state of the game currently in early season. With new patches and big changes that have come up and big changes that are still upcoming, it can be a little bit difficult to touch base on. But I think the game is doing very well for, now only being in its second year. And I think that's something that people don't really realize or really take note of, is the fact that Valorant's only been out for like a year and a half now. It's not League that's been here for over 10 years. There's a lot of things that are being ironed out. Luckily, they do have, Riot Games has a monster of a game like League, where I'm sure they've learned from a lot of the mistakes that they made with that game and are now doing it better with this new title. But I think it can be hard to say. I do like that the changes that are coming out, though, are pretty meta changes. I mean, with the buffs to the eco guns, we're going to see an eco meta, change coming out, as far as, over time. I'm sure the buys are going to change. The Ares is being nerfed, I believe, in patch 4.01. I don't know what the nerf is exactly. I didn't look at it, but I heard that.
Is it the fire rate?
Yeah. I'm not sure. I didn't see what the nerf was going to be. I just saw someone post, I think, in one of the Discord servers that I was in, was that I believe it's the Knights tournament this upcoming weekend is going to be on patch 4.01. And someone was like, oh, goodbye, Ares, or something like that. So I didn't actually know what the Ares change was. I just knew that there's going to be a slight nerf to it. Because I do think that it was a little overpowered for the price point that it was at. And I think that, if you either make a slight change to the firing rate, to the spin up, or if you increase the value of the gun in game credits wise, it could easily be balanced out in that way. But I didn't think that, the gun itself was too OP. I just think it was way too cheap for the most part for the buff that it got, to be honest.
Yeah, because now you see in your ranked games, whether you win or lose pistol round, it's 10 Ares on the field.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Because I know right now EMEA VCT is going on right now. So they're going on not 4.0 right now. They're going on the previous patch. So the Ares buff is not played on the EMEA run.
Yeah.
So then you see that it's everyone's why no Ares? Why no Ares? Everyone's they're not playing on that patch because it was too soon. The patch note plus them, because they were scrimming a lot. So you can't really throw them on a patch. But I think starting the playoffs or the main stage, they are going to be played on 4.01 just because they haven't said anything about NA. It's been we're 8 days away and nothing has been said about NA VCT. So we'll see about that. But I think we're almost about to wrap here. Is there anything anything you want to say before we close it out here? You want to shout out anything?
We also,
anything?
Before we do that, we got our tradition question.
We have a traditional question we ask every single guest. So
I'm ready.
Do you like boba?
Like bubble tea?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, I do.
Okay. So
what's your boba order?
What is the go-to boba order?
Ooh, that is a very hard question to answer, because I actually 2 years ago made it my goal to try a different drink almost every single time I order from Cha Time specifically. That being one of the main bubble tea places in Canada that's available. I don't know if Cha Time's in the States. I actually can't remember. But so I try to order a different drink unless I'm craving a specific one. I try to try something new on the menu every single time. But otherwise, oh my God, picking one is really hard, guys.
Right?
It's really difficult.
We either had, every single person that's told us either had, or doesn't really, just says a random order, or doesn't really like
Gompers
boba.
only drinks water, apparently.
Yeah. We had Gompers on before, and she says, I don't drink bubble tea, I only drink water.
I only drink water. We're
so it was and then we had I think we had Wheels on, TSM Wheels.
And he said, I'm old, I don't drink boba. We're dude, you're 30.
You're 30, my guy. What do you mean you're old? So
what is the age correlation?
So it's funny to see everyone's reaction or everyone's answer. So I mean, please, this is a very serious question. So try to take it as serious as possible.
Okay. If I had to narrow it down to my top 3 choices,
3 being the worst, 1 being the best.
Okay. I would put taro on 2 in the middle.
Okay.
That would be my second. My
Good choice.
what's it called? I just need to make sure that I'm saying the right.
All right, because I might try to order that because I usually he always gets almond milk tea every single time.
Okay.
So we try to. I mean, I mostly get Thai milk tea. I think this one I have chai milk tea this time. So because we get it from Kung Fu Tea from the place we get. I don't know if you guys have Kung Fu Tea in Canada.
I have heard of Kung Fu Tea. I think we have it only in very particular cities because it's probably US based. So that would mean that like only like big cities would really like Toronto and stuff like that. I think there is a Kung Fu Tea there. I don't know if there is one in Ottawa, but I just want to make sure. I think my first choice is probably either Hokkaido milk tea or I think it's just Hokkaido milk tea. Wait, I'm going to Google it really quickly because I want to make sure. Obviously, very serious. The last question, I need to make sure that I'm on top of everything.
Our fans will be very biased depending on your answer, so it's a very serious question.
I'm afraid.
No, it's okay.
I'm just going to get angry DMs. This was the wrong decision.
How dare you?
You're canceled.
Matcha milk tea is the best. God, you didn't even put in your top 3.
Matcha is so good, but it's hit or miss depending on where you go because I have to have good matcha.
Oh yeah,
they don't have good matcha. That's GG's. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, I would say that top is either number 1 would either be Hokkaido milk tea or it would be like a roasted milk tea because I like I don't have either of you had a roasted milk tea before?
I don't think so.
Nope.
No.
Roasted milk teas are usually made with you have the tea base, which is either green or black, and there's usually like roasted rice puffs in it, and it gives this really toasty kind of aroma. And I don't know, I enjoy that. It's like very warm, and I don't know, I just call it toasty tasting, which is kind of weird, but it genuinely tastes like toasty, like that roasted smoky-ish kind of flavor. So that would be my number 1. And then third is probably winter melon, to be honest. Yeah.
I think that's what I have right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It is a good one. It
was hard.
Okay. Anything you want to plug in before we end it off here? Like your Twitch, Twitter?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to thank you guys so much for having me on tonight. It was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Yeah. And also for being so accommodating with all of my scheduling changes. And then
That's okay.
As far as my socials go, you can follow me on Twitter, which is SpicyyPyro, spicy with 2 Y's. And then same thing on Twitch. I am going to try and get back into streaming, but yeah. That would be, I would say, everything. And just thank you for everybody who's kind of supported me along this journey. Shout out to my partner, Phil, for always being the GOAT too. But yeah.
All right, guys. We're going to end it here. Love you guys. Bye-bye.